This is the Haulin Assets podcast where we show you how to start and run your own trucking company. Ever wanted to go out on your own? Follow Chris as he goes through the highs and lows of running on his own authority. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of the Haulin Assets podcast. This is episode number 137. We're talking about August 2023 financials. I am your host, Craig Hanks, and over there, he's Chris Vernon. How's it going, Chris?
I'm doing well. How are you, Craig?
I'm all right. Yeah. I'm all right. By the time people listen to this, Chris, I will be almost to Munich for Oktoberfest. So we're recording this a little bit early, but that's okay. It's a financials episode. We just needed the numbers so we can record a little bit early, but I'll be out.
Have I ever told you I've been to Munich in Oktoberfest?
Yeah, you did mention that.
Have you been there?
No.
You'll have a good time. It is insane. People watching is just phenomenal.
I have no doubt. It's I'll be exhausted. For those who, for all of our German listeners out there who want to, grab a mass of beer, let me know. But no, I'll be going from Nuremberg to Munich, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear how it goes.
Cool. Well, Chris, what do you want to talk about before we get to the numbers? Anything going on this week? Anything interesting?
So nothing super interesting with Haulin Assets, but I went to every month I go to it's called the Safety Management Council with the Utah Trucking Association. They do a lunch and bring in a speaker, and at the beginning of it, when they have the speaker, before they have the speaker kind of start, they usually have somebody from the Utah Motor Carrier Division, one of the somebody from the Utah Highway Patrol. They kind of just give an update on what, kind of some going ons and stuff. And so anyway, one of the highway patrolmen got up and talked about an incident that had happened the day before in Utah. Just super fascinating. And it's one of those situations where it's it's really good to learn from other people's mistakes.
I've told you my favorite word or pearl of wisdom anybody ever gave me.
Give it.
It was, it goes, good experience. Good judgment comes from experience. And unfortunately, experience often comes from bad judgment. And he left it there, but in the years since, that has stuck with me forever. But I've appended to that, and it doesn't have to be your bad judgment. Yeah, you learn from other people's mistakes.
Absolutely, that's the easy way to do it. Easy button on learning. You do it. Learn from somebody else's mistakes.
That's right.
So anyway, this is a situation, and it was completely avoidable, completely preventable. And the funny thing is, he wouldn't say who the trucking company this happened with was, but he said it is a big one that you would know who they are, that you see all the time.
Right.
And so I'm thinking, okay, well, anyway, so what ended up happening? Let's talk a little bit about this. So a truck pulling an oversized load, and when he said oversized, he's like, it was oversized, and the big thing was it was overweight. And you can get overweight permits and haul in Utah. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think it's 130,000 pounds. Oh, wow. So 80,000 pounds is normal.
Yeah.
You can haul up to 130. You have to, typically when you're hauling that kind of weight, you have to have, like you're pulling a double trailer, or you're pulling a big trailer with more axles, which I'm sure this one is. But anyway, he had an overweight permit, but he was over the weight of the overweight permit. And anyway, he's coming up on an intersection and can't stop. Oh, and so he starts blowing his horn to warn everybody. And anyway, in the middle of an intersection, he hits a 15-passenger van.
Oh my gosh.
With preschool kids.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Luckily, the van driver
you're
heard
smiling, so I'm assuming...
it wasn't terrible.
Okay.
Like it could have been catastrophic.
Yeah.
But it ended up nobody really got seriously hurt, because the van driver heard the honking and partway through the intersection just hit the accelerator and got most of the way out of the way, and so didn't get hit very hard. But anyway, it caused enough damage that the highway patrol comes in, commercial vehicle inspectors come in and handle the investigation on the accident. Come to find out, so guess how many brakes this trailer truck combo had?
gosh, I don't even know on a normal trailer.
So on a normal, let's see, you've got 2 on each axle, so you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10.
10. Okay, so out of 15, something
20.
20. Okay, so he's got 20 sets of brakes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
14 of them are non-functional.
Oh my gosh! Holy smokes.
Or not adjusted. So they're either not working for some reason, or they're not adjusted to the point where 14 of the 20 brakes don't work.
Wow.
Yeah, and so, that's
of course it can't stop.
So of course it can't stop, and that's just like, that's one of those things, like, maintenance is so important. And that's honestly, it's companies like that. That's why we have to have so many freaking regulations in the trucking industry, because
you have to make them pay attention.
Shit like that. Yeah. It's that's one of those things. That kind of an accident's completely avoidable.
Yeah.
And it's really, like, I don't know the whole story. There might be a little bit more to the story, but I mean, that's just full blown negligence. And that company's going to get taken to the ringer on that kind of a thing.
Daycare just got rich.
Yeah. Even though there was nobody really got hurt, it didn't. Right. It could have been horrible.
Well, and you think about, look, I am not a very litigious person, but were I a lawyer, sure, take him for emotional damages for all these, dozen preschool kids.
That's one of those situations where rough. I'm the same way. Like, I don't like lawsuits, but that's one of those things where, like, that company needs to feel a little bit of pain.
Yeah.
That's just unacceptable.
Yeah. Well, so everybody, make sure you're keeping up on your maintenance.
Yeah.
Don't be an idiot.
Don't do stupid stuff like that.
Keep your trucks in tip-top shape. Okay. Well, that was an alarming and interesting story.
Yeah.
So before we get into the numbers, Chris, I will remind everybody to go to haulinassetsllc.com. And also go to motorcarrierhq.com. I know I'm a broken record on this, but you never know when somebody's new. Okay, so motorcarrierhq.com is where you can get tools, tips, and people who can help you transition from being an employee driver to going out on your own, getting your own authority. And then Haulin Assets LLC is the home of this podcast, among other things. And there you can get full show notes. You can look at the numbers that we're going to talk about today, and that sort of thing. Oh, I should also mention, people can go to motorcarrierhq.com for the merch. Merch, Chris.
Yeah. Get one of these nice Haulin Assets t-shirts.
That's right. I am not repping very well today, but what? I did double time
on
the last one.
So you're making up for it this time.
That's
just
exactly
one.
Right. Yeah. So, Chris, let's talk numbers.
Okay. So I'm feeling like a broken record.
Let me guess. Okay, hang on. It was another tough month.
It was another tough month.
Yeah. It was a
little bit of a loss.
We had a
more than a little.
Time I'm starting to feel the pain.
Yeah, all that. Keep going. You can just finish the podcast out for me. Yeah, you've got this. It was another tough month, and we'll get into the numbers. But with that being said, like, I'm starting to feel more and more. I'm seeing more and more signs that things are starting to turn around.
When you say that, have we talked specifics? You say that every so often. I'm seeing some signs. I'm hoping things are turning around because I'm seeing things. What is it that you're seeing that's making you go, okay, hang on, we might be climbing out of this?
So a couple things. One of the things, the average rate size per invoice that I'm able to see through some of my other companies, that's increasing. That's a sign that rates are getting better. We'll see in the numbers here that the rate per mile has gotten better.
It's not as dire as
it's not as dire. It's still not good, but it's better. I mean, a 13-cent jump from where it was last month.
Okay.
And we're seeing, specifically in Utah, and a lot of what I've been talking about and what you're seeing on the load boards, nationwide. I'm seeing stuff nationwide, but specifically to our local market, our shippers that we do a lot of business with are giving us more loads. They're better paying, and so that's another really good sign that things are getting better.
Okay.
And on top of that, one of the shippers that we've been working with for about a year trying to get on with them, we finally took our first load with them.
Oh, good.
So that's good. And then I also talked a little bit about a new one during the last financials episode that we'd hauled our first load for. So we did one in July, like the end of July. We did 3 in August, and we did 2 so far the first week of September for them.
Okay, excellent.
So more direct shippers are willing to and wanting to play ball, and so that's all a good sign that things are starting to come around a little bit. And the question at this point is like I'm pretty confident that things are starting to creep up. It's just a matter of how quickly is it going to do that, and how long is it going to last. And
right.
It's obviously going to take several months to answer that question.
Well, we shall see.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, though, to follow up on something you mentioned with the direct shipper that you've got. This isn't a sales episode. People can go back. We've talked about this in depth. But just in this case, you said it took you a year. You guys were trying for a year to get on with this shipper. How did it finally happen? Was this, and just give us the 60-second thing. Was it you followed up every 2 months, or, how did this work out?
We'd follow up. So the first real main meeting that we had with this particular shipper, Nate and I it's one that's up in Idaho. Nate and I had drove up there, took one of the shipping managers to lunch, and kind of talked about what we can do and how we could help out. And then we've just kind of consistently stayed in contact with him over the course of almost a year. And finally, like, conditions are right, that he's all like, okay, hey, he actually gave us a swing at 2 loads. One of them we couldn't make work, but one of them we did. And so we're hauling it.
Perfect.
Yeah. So and that's, it starts with one, and hopefully, like that other company, it snowballs to more. And we're even our shipper, our first real direct shipper that we done stuff for, we're getting, we already in September, we've hauled quite a few loads with them, to the point where, with all these coming together, most of our outbound loads in September, I can only think of one off the top of my head that was not one of our direct shippers.
Really?
Yeah. So that's way
huge.
better than it's been.
What's remind me, you're going for what, 50% direct shippers? 60?
Well, it depends if you're talking 50% total or just outbound. If I remember right, you're putting me on the spot a little bit.
Sorry.
But I think it was 80% outbound from Utah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And ultimately, we'd like to get to the point where 50% of our total loads are direct shippers.
So all outbound being direct, and then
and some inbounds.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Well, that's great. I just wanted to kind of dive into what you meant when you said signs are pointing toward better days ahead. Yeah. So, but let's talk about not the ghosts of Christmas future, but how about present, Chris? We'll talk about August numbers. And let's start with total miles run on how many trucks? 11 trucks.
11 trucks.
Okay.
Yeah. We did have, and this is one of the problems with our numbers in August, is we had 2 trucks essentially sit the whole month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just hard time getting new drivers in them. And so 2 trucks sitting. So,
hey, by the way, anybody looking to drive out in Utah? If you're in Utah,
Idaho, even Arizona, like one of the surrounding states, let us know. So 100,053 miles, 153 miles,
100,053.
Yeah,
on 11 trucks. That's not so great. I mean, with 2 trucks sitting, of course. So, if this were a 9 truck fleet, then you'd be like, okay, things are looking okay. But with 2 trucks sitting, as we've talked about before, the crisis there is you're still dealing with the fixed costs on those trucks. They may not be using up fuel. You may not be paying drivers, but that's not all that the cost of a truck is. Yeah. And so you want to make sure that you get those out on the road as soon as possible.
Yeah. So start of September, we're down to where just one of them. We've got one sitting, and we've got a couple things in the hopper that we're not super anxious to get this one truck on the road. We have a driver that we're really excited about that can't start till the end of September. So we're kind of holding on to that. And we've got some local stuff that we're doing a little bit with that one sitting truck. So it's sitting, but hopefully it'll get at least a couple thousand miles this month.
Right. Okay. Excellent. So of those 100,000 miles, we'll just round down, call it 100K. How many of those were Deadhead miles?
7,421 miles, which is about 7.4%.
It's pretty easy math at this point.
Yeah, and that's roughly what we had last month as well.
So, okay, a little higher than you want, but not a crisis number. Did that include that load you told us about last time where you had to go down to Arizona and then you had to go to LA just to pick up a load? Was that in August? I want to say that was in August.
It was the very end of August. So I don't know.
I
actually think that one's going to hit September's
Okay.
numbers.
All right.
Yeah, because it delivered like the 1st of September. So
okay. So it'll go towards September numbers. All right. So 7.4% Deadhead miles. Tell us what the total revenue was for that 100,000 total miles.
It was 199,337 and 87 cents.
Okay. And once again, fast math.
Easy
All right.
math, yeah.
Fast math, people. 100,000 miles. You're never. This is like the first rule of radio, Chris. Never ever do live math.
Yeah.
But that's what $1.99
Yep.
per mile.
Per mile. Yep.
Right.
So that's last month was $1.86. So $1.99, definitely better, but
still sucks.
We're moving in the right direction, and I'm pretty confident that September is going to be even better. Like the lows that we've gotten the beginning of this, we're really a little over a week into September at the time that we're recording this, and indications are looking pretty decent. That at least our outbound stuff's looking pretty good.
Okay. All right. Well, that's you're talking in an encouraging way, but we know that this has been a tough month. 2 trucks sitting, kind of a crappy rate per mile. So what does that give us in terms of profit or loss?
Loss. $25,755.42.
Of a loss,
yeah. Okay. So another month with a pretty big number. I mean, that's obviously, I've said this many times, this isn't sustainable. Luckily, we've, between money we saved in the good year and, extra money that I've got because I've, been smart in my other businesses, we're making things work, but it's not, it's feeling like it hurts more and more. Like the pain of these losses every month, like it's getting old.
Right.
Having to inject some money into the company and
just to keep moving,
bring on more debt just to keep moving. But again, I'm pretty optimistic that it's going to change here in the next several months.
Right. Well, we're talking about August numbers right now, and of course, I'm sure every trucking company in this situation is just holding on with their fingernails until Christmas.
If things don't change around by if October, November this year are equally bad, I'm going to start to get worried.
Right.
At this point, I'm not crazy worried. I don't like what's happening, but I'll be worried if we're still struggling in October, November. I'll be worried.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that big shiny red button. But for now, we'll keep hanging on and keep working toward, achieving a positive number. So let's talk, though, about August's numbers. 25K down this month. Call it 26, right, if we round up. 26K of a loss. But is there anything that you want to dig into numbers-wise from the profit and loss?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few things in the P&L this month that kind of explain some of that loss. And we've already talked about one of them. That's the lower revenue, the 2 trucks sitting.
Right.
That's, any time we've had 2 trucks sitting, I mean, that's 20% of our fleet. It's pretty hard to make money in that situation. Yeah. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk a little bit is fuel. Fuel's starting to get bad again. You've probably noticed that fuel prices are going up, which is pretty common in the fall for diesel. So it's not unexpected that it's going up some, but it seems to be going up a little bit more than I would have anticipated. Yeah. So we spent with 5,000 fewer miles in August, we spent almost $7,000 more in fuel.
That is significant.
So yeah, it's not great. And the percentage of fuel expense to revenue that we've been talking a lot about lately is the highest it's been this year. And we have to go back to last year when it was really bad that
it was this high.
See these kind of numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was even worse at points last year, but I mean, it was like I think it was 38.8%
this month.
This month.
Yeah. So as a refresher, we're trying to get down to 25%, as I recall.
Yeah, 25.
Anything under 30 would be good.
And it was 36.8%. 6%
this month.
this month.
Okay. So yeah, because I remember during that tough period last year, we were
We got
sitting
into
around
the
what
40s.
like 40 or
Yeah.
low 40s. Yeah, that's rough. Okay, other bits from the P&L.
So another thing, we've had this happen in the past, and I think we've talked about it a little bit, but we got hit with a work comp audit, which is normal. At the end of your policy year, you have to provide all your payroll information because that's really what determines how much you pay in workers' compensation. We ended up underpaying again, which I think this is like the third year in a row that we've underpaid work comp. And when you're growing as a company and your payroll is growing, it's harder to project how much you're going to end up owing in work comp. And you know, it's kind of with me, it's kind of like with taxes. You know, a lot of times you kind of underestimate so that you don't overpay it, and we probably underestimated too much. And anyway, so almost $3,000 of that is from last month, but it was $9,000 that we ended up underpaying in work comp. So we're going to see that same expense. So we saw it in August, we're going to see it in September, we're going to see it again in October.
Wow.
Before we're caught up.
Okay. All right. What else you got? Maintenance and repairs?
About $10,000 in maintenance, and that's a lot of tires again. Same thing last month. We just kind of, I think, the cycle of our trucks. Like, we bought a lot of new ones a couple years ago, and those trucks are all coming due for new drive tires, new trailer tires, new steer tires. And so we've been spending a lot of money in tires lately.
I feel like there's a joke here. You know, they talk about when women live together for long enough, their cycles start to synchronize, right?
Well,
that's what we're seeing with the truck tires.
Trucks are synchronizing, yeah.
There's your analogy, Chris.
That's an interesting one, Craig. Wow, that was.
I am who I am. Okay, I'm an analogy
trying to
machine.
keep it family friendly. I mean, it is part of life. You
that's
know?
it.
It is part of life. Yeah.
It's dumb, but not horrible.
Yeah, dumb maybe, but yeah, not.
I look forward to the comments, everyone. I'll see you on Facebook.
Please tell Craig how you feel about that one. This could be fun. I can popcorn. I can get some popcorn. Watch this.
Whatever you do, don't mention this in the iTunes reviews because 2 stars, bad analogies. Okay. Any other P&L items?
We had our Oregon use tax for the quarter came out. It was $2,200.
I'm sorry. $2,200 per quarter.
Yeah.
And now is this based on the miles you run, the trucks you run through there?
Yeah, it's 21-ish cents a mile for every mile we run in Oregon. It's insane.
So, at what point do you just blacklist Oregon?
We
from your
intentionally, anytime we go into Oregon, or if we have to pass through Oregon to get into Washington, like you look at that, you consider that, okay, is the rate I am getting for this load worth this expense it's going to take me to drive through Oregon?
And I would be very curious to look at Oregon's numbers on how much they bring in from this and what it's worth. It's just
ton of money.
That's really dumb. Yeah, to be that state. Don't be that state, everybody. I'm talking to you, states. Okay. Other items. I think. What do you have? One more?
Repairs. I think was the biggest I've ever seen it.
Oh, wow.
About $18,000. A big chunk of that, a little over 10,000 of it, was just truck number 2. It ended up going into the shop and had a plethora of things that ended up having to be repaired. Most of it involving every truck driver's favorite part of the truck, the diesel, the DEF and exhaust system. It's one of those things that doesn't really provide us much benefit. The environmentalists would disagree, but it doesn't. It's just a huge expense.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's $18,000.
$18,000 in repairs.
Let me ask you a quick question. This might actually be a whole episode on its own, but your experience with these repair shops, the maintenance and repair shops that you're going to, is it as difficult to find an honest mechanic for a semi as it is for your car? And so do you ever run into a situation where somebody's like, oh yeah, no, I need to do $15,000 of repairs on this, and then you get a second opinion and they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. No, there's still that same problem. I would say it's probably not as bad because you don't have as many, like there's a lot of regular car drivers that
Right.
just have no idea about maintenance and repairs and everything. Most people in the trucking industry have at least a basic understanding. And so it's a little harder to fleece.
Right. Nobody's getting taken for blinker fluid or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So, but there's still there's still a big variance. And where you do see the bigger problems is when it's an emergency, like it's a roadside thing.
Right.
And you've seen how much we get charged tow bills, and that's
Great.
where you like
Best hooker in Ogallala.
Yeah, he was actually pretty reasonable. That like the one that really comes to mind is when we had to have our truck towed in Oklahoma for the driver that was a dumbass, and it was like 6 miles and $4,000.
Wow, that's okay. Don't be that guy either.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so repairs sucked. Chris, anything else you want to bring out from the P&L?
That's kind of most of it. So I mean, you talk those numbers, the things that are a little bit out of normal there, just expense wise. I mean, we're approaching that $25,000-$30,000.
Right.
But I mean, it's trucking. You're going to have some months with way higher expenses than others.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's here's to hoping that September's are lower in the expense category, because that's intense. So $26K down, but you mentioned part of the light at the end of the tunnel being the direct shippers. You've got a new one that you started hauling for in August, and then one that you'd had previously that you were doing more loads for. So hopefully that snowball, as you call it, keeps rolling down the hill. But then also there's potential light at the end of the tunnel in thinking, hey, we just did 2 months with a giant round of tires through the whole fleet. This massive repair on truck number 2. There's a good chance, we can't guarantee it, but there's a good chance that September will have much, much lower expenses based on that. Am I crazy?
Keeping our fingers crossed. One thing that we have, we've talked a little bit about in the last few days is we're with this volume of tires that we're starting to go through. We're a little bit bigger fleet. We've never really tried to go and be as deliberate as we should about shopping around and negotiating tire rates. And so that's one of our plans is we're gonna try to get a little bit more consistent with the tire, our preferred tires, like for the drive tires, for the trailer tires, and for steer tires. Figure out what our preferred tire is, and then start to go and negotiate with shops where 11 trucks. That's a lot of tires every year. So we should be able to get a little bit better pricing than we have been, and that's going to be a little bit of a priority for us here in the near future.
Okay, perfect. Chris, anything else to close out this episode? Any final thoughts other than hang in there?
Hang in there. I think that's it. Yeah, keep as you're going to do going forward, one foot in front of the other.
That's right.
Keep moving forward.
Yeah, I'm going over the road.
You are.
There's just one
by
difference.
Foot. Yeah,
by foot. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening in. We will be back in a couple of weeks with another topic before we then come back for September's numbers, which I am honestly at this point very interested to hear about. I really want to see those turn around. So we'll see how it goes. Leave us a review on iTunes, not based on my analogies, but maybe based on Chris's information would be a better idea. Visit us at HaulinAssetsLLC.com, and don't forget to go to MotorCarrierHQ.com for all of the tools and merch that I mentioned before. Thanks everybody for listening and for watching on YouTube, and we will see you next time.
See you then.